Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the March 2025 edition of Upcoming Wargames, the video where we take a look at various tabletop wargames in various states of production from companies across the planet. We have a lot of games to go through. I have nearly 20 games on my list and I could literally turn around and make another episode tomorrow because there is so much good stuff that we have yet to talk about on the channel. These videos, by the way, are sponsored by Noble Knight Games, a board game retailer in Wisconsin who ships all across the planet, so don't let the fact that they are in Wisconsin scare you off. Fantastic service and well-known within the wargaming industry for being a great place to get used and out-of-print games, but they have new games, regular board games, miniatures, role-playing supplies, all kinds of stuff. And they have a brand new point of emphasis on their site now, which is their brand new pre-order system. Pre-orders with Noble Knight has always been kind of something off to the side a little bit. Now it's a point of emphasis. They've got a whole new section, an updated website section, and they're filling it out quickly. So if you are looking for a new and upcoming game, that might be a good place to check. If you do order something through the site, through one of the links below in the description, thank you very much, as it does help out the channel. And thanks to everybody who over the holiday season used those links to get stuff. It's always greatly appreciated. Oh, and I almost forgot, we're giving away a $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games at the end of this video. The details on how to enter into that drawing are at the end of the video. To start us off in the newly released category, Fighting Formations, 29th Infantry Division by Chad Jensen and published by GMT Games. A tactical combat system game that reminds me in some way of Combat Commander, but there's just a lot more depth and meat to it. This game, I did see a presentation for this game at SD HistCon's winter convention here that was given about. I think the best way to get a sense for what it's like is to look at some of these pictures they have up on Board Game Geek. There are cards, as we can see. There's kind of these, rather small size footprint maps. So certainly one can see the design influence of something like Combat Commander. But there's a lot more going on here as we look at. We can see anti-tank guns, trucks, vehicles, facing matters, rules here. We got an order matrix here. We've got different things. I mean, this just looks really cool. The whole system seems quite integrated, well-designed, well thought out with just a lot of stuff going on. So this game went from my like, oh, this is another tactical combat system, I'll get to it, to, wow, this looks really good. So I'd be curious if people have gotten it already, how it's playing and what they think about it. But this one certainly caught my eye as I've looked at it. I do not have it on, did not place the order for it. You can only get so many things, but it is quite high on my level of interest right now. Sticking with the theme of tactical combat and sticking with the theme of newly released, Stalin's Favorites, Bands of Brothers from Worthington Publishing. This one's just come out. I did receive a review copy of this game from them. Thank you very much. So I'll be showing some content on the channel for this one. I've heard a moderate complexity tactical combat system, and thematically, this is the 6th game in their system now. So it's getting quite robust here. And as we take a look at it, we can see some of the counters. I like the graphic design on this. This one in particular, thematically, it takes us to the East Front again for 1943 to 1945. New tanks for both armies, 16 new scenarios from Kursk to Berlin, 8 new maps, 4 counter sheets, 2 series rulebooks, 2 scenario books, and dice counter trays and elements like that. If we take a look at the rules here, we can see that the rules are fairly hefty. I mean, if we go down to the bottom of them here, we got 36 pages of rules with a good bit of meat here. So again, it is a tactical combat system. There are recommendations here for solo play. I don't know offhand how well it will play solo. I have heard very good things about the other games in this series, so I'm very interested and curious to give this one a look. This one, Stalin's Favorites, the Band of Brothers' 6th game from Worthington Publishing and newly released. Also from Worthington Publishing and also newly released, Iwo Jima, the brother game, if you would, to Tarawa. And if we kind of scroll down here, this is a very simple solitaire, not simple, simple is the wrong way to put it, but a very modest rule set, easy to jump in, very accessible game that you can jump in and play as the U.S. forces trying to attack Iwo Jima in World War II. There is an overview video up on the channel already for this one. We can kind of take it. It's a block-based game where you're basically moving forward, card-driven, block-based game where you're trying to take over. Here we can see the map of the island, basically trying to conquer all of Iwo Jima. Its brother game, Tarawa, was notoriously difficult to win, and I have seen inklings on social media and from people reaching out to me that Iwo Jima has the same level of difficulty. One of those games where it's fun to lose, but eventually, hopefully, you can win at one point in time. I'm really impressed with the components and again, a very modest rule set. I think is a game you can pick up and play very, very quickly. So Iwo Jima, the second game in this island series from Worthington Publishing. Sticking with Worthington Publishing, we've got another newly released game, Drop Zone Southern France. This game is about the airborne operations the day before the second D-Day that was in southern France on August 15th, 1944. And this is a very modest rule set, as we shall see. Game can be played by 2, 3, or 4 players or solitaire as the Allies. So there is a solitaire bot for the Allies. Large 34 by 22-inch map, 3 sheets of double-sided counters, 2 sets of rules, player aids, custom trays, so lots of goodies in here. But if we look at the rules, there's only 10 pages of rules. I was talking to another gamer who said this game reminded them very much of the 1944 Battle of the Bulge game by Worthington. So very modest, straightforward. And this is a draft of the rules, not a final version, by the way. Very modest rule set, relatively straightforward. We can see here as we scroll down more, we can see some of the counters here. It looks very, very well designed. This one looks gorgeous. And I'm excited by the fact that there is a full solo mode where you can play as the Allies for this as well. So interesting Drop Zone Southern France from the Worthington Publishing, as well another newly released game. Next up in our newly released category, Iraqi Freedom 30 Days to Baghdad. This one is the second game from the new company Accurate Simulations. Their first game was Desert Storm, which covered the 1991 Gulf War. This one, of course, covers the 2003 Gulf War. I'll take a look at some pictures here. Fully mounted maps, nice set of counters. You're not only kind of fighting the Gulf War, but you're also hunting Iraq's most wanted targets in this game as well. Mounted boards look really sharp, clean rule set. Also, in addition to the Iraqi war game, there is some supplemental material for Desert Storm. We can see here behind me the historical setup for Desert Storm. So that's one feature. The original game didn't have that. Then you get some new units for Desert Storm, and you get a new event effect system that redefines and reimagines how the events were triggered in the first game. So a lot of fun stuff in here from Accurate Simulations. Great to see them coming out with their second game. Could be something you want to check out if you're interested in the topic. Moving into the soon-to-be-released and pre-order stage, we have a couple of games that are listed as in transit on the company website. This is Point Blank Winter Victory. This is the expansion to Point Blank. And if you recall, Point Blank was one of my top war games in 2022. It came right out at the end of the year. It's a tactical card-based combat system. And Point Blank Winter Victory adds a lot of cool features to it. I've got an overview video up on the channel, but it adds airstrikes, snow, some new units, a few new rules, some new terrain types, a bunch of cool stuff. And everything is centered around the Battle of the Bulge. So if you like the prior game, this one seems like it would be a kind of a no-brainer, as it just looks like it expands on the goodness of Point Blank. And one cool feature of it, instead of the paper map that's in with Point Blank, there are 45 of these tiles that sit in the game here to make it easier to make smaller maps and just give you more control over the footprint of the map as you play the game. So this is a cool addition. It's great to see the Point Blank series getting some continued support and development as it goes forward. I think it's a real winner, and it's good to see the system maturing. Also listed as in transit from the Lock and Load Publishing website is Close Quarter Battles, the first game in the Close Quarter Battle series, entitled Waterloo. Now, this is listed, it describes itself as tactical combat in the Napoleonic era at the company, and half battery level. So really kind of digging in particular, this volume digs in some of the specific smaller engagements that happened within the larger Waterloo battle. Intriguing idea for a game. I'm really also intrigued in the idea that it's listed as the first game in a series, because it's always nice when you have series to be able to learn the core rules, which this one says will be core rules and then module rules. So you'll be able to learn the core rules and then apply them to all of the engagements. Not a ton of information out there on the internets about this one, but there are some images now popping up on Board Game Geek. Here is a look at the map with counters on it. Another one here. Really like the way they've designed this. This looks really fresh. Counter set looks good, clear, nice and vibrant. I mean, yeah, this is a neat idea. Here's a look at some of the components with. There's another one here, I think, of there's cards are involved as well. And then we have all our counter set here. So this is an exciting idea. I'm looking forward to digging into this one more. Close Quarter Battles, the first game in the series, Waterloo from Lock and Load Publishing. Our next game, also in the category of soon to release, is New Cold War from VUCA Sims. I do have an advanced copy of this one as well, so I will be bringing some videos to the channel at some point this month. But what is New Cold War? Well, it's hard not to draw comparisons with New Cold War to Twilight Struggle, because it's a very similar type of dynamic. Your global powers fighting for geopolitical control of the planet. But what's different? Well, first up, the timescale. This one goes from 1989 to 2019, so tons more modern events incorporated this one. Also, this one is 1 to 4 player, and I've been looking at the solo bot rules. It looks very fleshed out. Here, right beside me there, it says the solitaire suitability is 8. I'm not sure why it says 8. To me, it feels like it should be a 10. It feels like it's a very full, fleshed out solo system, and instead of just 2 superpowers, we've got 4. So China, Russia, Europe, and then the United States. And your ultimate goal, geopolitical control of the planet, is the same, but the mechanics feel quite a bit different too. So, and plus, lastly, it's got VUCA Sims' incredible design aesthetic here too. So we've got wooden tokens for it, nice mounted map for the globe. I really like how they've designed the Earth here. You can kind of see the planet spanning around this central area. Card-driven play, as would be similar to a Twilight Struggle, but just a really nice production value in this one. I'm excited to take a look at this one as we get further into March. So available for pre-order on the VUCA Sim sites, New Cold War. Another game, still more to come. We've got lots. Another game in the pre-order stage is 1920 Nest of Eagles from Phalanx. This game covers the Polish-Soviet War of largely 1929 scenarios in it. There is an overview video of a prototype of this one up on the channel. Really like the design aesthetic here. There's zones of friction instead of zones of control. So some creative applications of the traditional hex and counters war game. You can take a look at some of the map images here, which are very, very sharp. So I'm really liking the look of this one. I'm getting this one to the table very soon, so there'll be a second video that's going to show some gameplay of this one coming up on the channel soon as well. But this looks like a fun game covering a topic that really hasn't had a lot of coverage in board gaming, I think, is kind of the post-World War I battles, in particular, Poland versus the Soviet Union. And this also has, including a bunch of scenarios, a 3-player option. So there's the Poland against, you can split the Soviets up into 2 factions. Fun game. Looks like it's going to be really, really good. 1920 Nest of Eagles available for pre-order on the Phalanx site. Shifting now into our crowdfunding category, the first thing we want to take a look at is not really something that involves new games, but I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this. It's Danversen Games is reprinting a lot of their Leader series games that have been out of print for a while. So I know a lot of people have said, oh, B-17 Leader's been out of print. Sherman Leader in particular, because of the series up on the channel, has been out of print for a while. This Kickstarter has lots of stuff. We'll just kind of walk through it, but we could easily spend 10 minutes on this one. So reprint of Corsair Leader is here. I'm going to kind of slide through this right-hand side. B-17 Errata and Sherman Errata. I wonder if those are going to be corrected cards for things like Sherman Errata, because I know there were a few card errors that got reprinted in like a PDF file. So I assume that's what's going to be. Corsair Errata, Spruance Errata, Zera Leader, Aces Expansion. So again, a lot of the stuff for the Leader series, including the expansions that have been out of print for quite a while, all coming here. So this is a massive Kickstarter. Lots of videos, reviews, and stuff like that. Where is the Sherman Leader one? There it is. Sherman Leader review is mine. I do have a preview up of B-17 Leader too, overview of it too. Zero Leader. So if we go down through here, B-17 Leader expansion number 1, Spruance Leader. Here's Sherman Leader, B-17 Leader, Corsair Leader, B-17 Leader. I mean, you get the idea. Just a ton of stuff here. You can package them in all different ways, get everything if you want. But I know a lot of people have been waiting for the Leader reprints or trying to find them because they're out of print. They've been expensive. Here's your solution. Danversen Games, Leader reprints, and more on crowdfunding now with 22 days to go. And it's just started, I think, today or yesterday, and it's halfway there. So it should make its goal no problem. Speaking with our semi-crowdfunding pre-order category, we've got Broken Logic, a Long Road game expansion from Flying Pig Games. Now, it lists out of stock here, but I believe, although the crowdfunding campaign is over, I believe there's going to be a pre-order option available coming somewhere in the near future. And this is supposedly, I think it's going to ship in July of this year. Generally, Flying Pig Games runs their Kickstarters and their crowdfunding as the game is fairly close to being produced and shipped and moved along. So what is Broken Logic and what is Long Road? Long Road is kind of set in the 1980s in Europe. It's kind of Cold War gone hot with a sci-fi horror fantasy element built into it. Really neat combination of combat and science fiction, fantasy, all kinds of things that are in here, as well as horror. We can see you've got some really cool units. I mean, this is just a really fun game, and you need the base game to be able to play with this one here. But we've got 17 by 22 map, 4 sheets of counters, action cards, rules, tarot-sized champion, and battle walker cards. And then a book of science, Broken Logic, Long Road fiction, and then it comes in a sturdy box. Now, here is the Kickstarter, and we can see it has closed, but I do believe that the pre-order will open up on their website fairly soon. So we have Broken Logic, a Long Road expansion. This would be the second expansion to the system, too. So it's a system getting quite fleshed out as it moves forward. Not done with crowdfunding yet. We have 2 American Civil War games from Worthington Publishing. The first is South Mountain, September 14th, 1862. This is a new edition in their Brigade Battle series. And this one down here, of course, covers the Battle of South Mountain. And we've got Union Confederate Forces Hex Encounters game. Modest rule set, kind of medium complexity here with a 22-inch by 22.5-inch mounted board. I really like the look of this board. This is some sharp-looking terrain here. And then we kind of continue on to more hexes down in here. Looks like a fun game. The Brigade Battle series, beautifully designed with a lot of fun action. Good to see this one expanding as well. And again, I really like those series games where you can kind of learn one rule set and then be pretty much set to go in a number of games after that. This one just looks gorgeous, though. Then, in the same crowdfunding stage, we have 1862 War in Virginia. This one is Decisive Year of the Civil War. You're playing as the Confederate in a solo game that plays in under 1 hour. And here we can see the box. Notice the price over here above my head. It's a very modest $35. And if we take a look at this map, it's got 4 tracks on it. And as the Confederate forces, you're trying to defend Richmond from the Union forces. The way this looks, it reminds me a lot of the Pacific War 1942 and the War of 1812 solitaire games that we've looked at on the channel, except that this looks like it levels up the complexity and the gameplay for the AI a bit. So it kind of takes it to the next level and ramps it up a bit here because we can see this is an entire card-driven gameplay. So we've got a whole different element of gameplay compared to that series, although I can kind of see the roots of that series here in the 4 tracks where you're trying to defend that central point as the Confederate forces here. And then if we come down in here, we can see counters that are going to be moving along. So it looks like a fun addition to the series, and I'm curious to see how they have ramped up the gameplay, because I do like those War of 1812 and Pacific War, but adding a little bit more meat and depth to those is an interesting idea. So 2 games from Worthington Publishing, 1862 War in Virginia and South Mountain, September 14, 1862. The crowdfunding has ended, but it does say here that you can still you can make a late pledge to this to still back the project. Links are always down below in the description. Relatively quick one because we talked about this game in upcoming Wargames a number of times, but an update on 1811 Albuera from Tactical Workshop, which is a game that covers the Battle of Albuera in the Peninsula War down in Iberia, Napoleonic era. This is a complete reimagining of their first version, and we can take a look at a ton of stuff here. They are just so close, by the way. It looks like they've got just a few more backers left before they'll reach their $6,000 goal as I'm creating this. They had a Kickstarter, then reimagined it and came back with a second Kickstarter, and this one looks like it's going to be successful. They redid some of the shipping charges, so if you looked at the first one, they kind of found a better and cheaper shipping order option for people too. Relatively modest price here too for a box that is just packed full of stuff. Mounted map, tons of counters, player aids, a fully robust rule system. So if you're interested in Napoleonic conflict, this might be a game you want to check out. And it does look like, I'm very, very happy to see, because I know how hard they've worked on this game, very happy to see that their Kickstarter is going to be successful. 1811 Albuera from Tactical Workshop. Our next game, Rex Britannorum by Shakos. This is kind of a Euro war game hybrid with a very interesting historical theme set in the in 5554 BC. You play as one of the 3 client kingdoms, either the Regnenses, the Brigantes, or the Iceni, who are fighting for control of Britain. Now, the crowdfunding campaign has ended, but you can make a late pledge to still back this one if you are interested in it. I think rather than look through the the Kickstarter page, I think the best way to get an idea for this one is to look at the rule book. It is a 1 to 3 player game with a full set of rules for each of the 3 factions for Solitaire. We come down here, we can see card-based play. We'll show the map here in a moment. A lot of cubes to kind of locate for units. It's got kind of somewhat of a little bit of a coinish type look to it in terms of how it plays out. Here is our map. So you can see, so area-based gameplay. Really interesting historical theme, though. I don't know much about this one other than kind of what I've seen from the rules and what I've read on the Kickstarter page. But it looks like quite an interesting theme, looks like quite an interesting topic, and a very modestly priced game as we kind of look at things. So a lot of different sequence of play. And then we go down to the bottom here. We can see at the very bottom, I mean, pretty robust rules. We're up over 20 pages now. Solar and 2 players games. We get, here we have down here. These are the orders here for the various factions. Now, they're relatively straightforward, so I'm kind of curious to see how that plays. But Rex Britannorum by Shakos Games, available on late pledge on GameFound, and a link is down below. Returning to Flying Pig Games for our next upcoming game, we have reprints for Old School Tactical and Old School Tactical Stalingrad. Now this, again, the crowdfunding campaign has ended, but there are pre-order options. I'll show where they are because it takes a little bit of clicking to find them. If you're not familiar with Old School Tactical, it feels like every time I show a video of any kind of tactical combat system on the channel, there's always at least 3 or 4 comments about people that say, hey, have you tried Old School Tactical? What do you think about Old School Tactical? Now, I'm going by what I've seen on it. I haven't played Old School Tactical yet, but I've heard so many people that really, really like the system in terms of being a very nice blend of playability and complexity, because tactical combat, again, does tend to get quite complex. Beautiful graphics, beautiful counters, a lot of games and expansions now in the system. I think is quite a large number, but it's great to see this one get reprinted because I know it's been out of stock for a while. As we can see, just beautiful components in what is, I think, by many people considered to be one of their most favorite tactical combat systems in World War II. Now, to pre-order it here, you go to the page here and it says pre-order here, and that pops open there, this kind of order page that has all of the issues, all of the elements that you can buy. And then limited is Old School Tactical Volume 1, 2nd edition here. This one, you want to click on that to order it. And then down below is the Stalingrad Eastern Front. You can click on that to pre-order it there. So pre-order is still available for these, although I imagine this game will be shipping relatively soon. So Old School Tactical Stalingrad expansion and Volume 2 of second edition of Old School Tactical, available from Flying Pig Games. Our last 3 games are games that fall in the distant future, but I just got really excited about them. First up, Steel Wolves and German Fleet Boats. So this is Silent War, their award-winning game about the entire submarine campaign in World War II in the Pacific. Takes that system to the Atlantic, and you play as U-boat commander, and it adds in the German fleet boats expansion. I think this is a deluxe version of an earlier version of the game they had. So I imagine it's got, it says includes many changes and improvements to the updated components along with the expansion here. If we pop open these images of the game here, we can see, especially this one in here, the second one. I mean, it looks a lot like Silent War, where you basically have every submarine in the Pacific theater. This one looks just fantastic to play out the entire U-boat campaign. Like, there's a solitaire game, by the way, as well. So in this one here are our U-boats. Talk about instantly excited for a game. This looks just... I mean, I didn't play the original, and I'm not familiar. I didn't even know the original existed till I saw this one. I was kind of poking around on the Compass Games website, and I said, what? Steel Wolves as opposed to Silent War, same system, same type of gameplay. This looks cool. And again, with Silent War, there's just hundreds of hours of gameplay. So this could be, I'm not that this is a lifestyle game, but this is a massive campaign. Really good to play on Vassal as well. But yeah, Steel Wolves and German Fleet Boats Deluxe Edition, available for pay later pre-order on the Compass site right now. But for the distant future, this is not coming immediately in the near future. Another game that's instant excitement, Combat Volume 4. Eastern Front. Again, another thing that I mention when I talk about solitaire games or my favorite games, somebody always mentions how much they like this combat series. Volume 3, Arnhem, is coming out this year. This one looks for the distant future. I believe this is going to be fully standalone solitaire man-to-man combat. So each counter is a man in World War II. This one takes you to Eastern Front. You can play as either the Germans or the Russians. Updated rule set, 11 scenarios, 4 full-size maps, including elements of Stalingrad. I mean, to take this series, let's pop open some of the images here. To take this series to the East Front sounds just fantastic. Series rules. We've got some cards. Here's our counters here. Oh, this looks just amazing. Looks fantastic. It's great to see this series getting so much attention and development here. This must be the Stalingrad map that we're looking at, of course. The detail here. I mean, I've heard there's another one. I've heard so many people say such fantastic things about this system. This one's just a great announcement. Really excited about Combat Volume 4 on the Eastern Front. And our final game to talk about in the upcoming category in the not so distant future, I think, is 3 Days of Gettysburg Deluxe Edition, taking us all the way back to GMT Games. Now, Mark Herman was kind to join the channel a little while ago, and he listed his top 7 war games and war game designers. 3 Days of Gettysburg was one of the games that he picked, and this is the deluxe edition of this monster game for the Battle of Gettysburg. I believe there are 8 counter sheets in here, and it sounds like this is really going to be the definitive edition of this classic game, which has been around, first published in 1995. 3 Days of Gettysburg has stood the test of time as one of the most popular games of the Great Battles of the American Civil War series. And indeed, any game that makes the top 7 of Mark Herman's list is definitely something I wanted to pay attention to. So really excited to see this one on its way towards publication. It looks like just a great version to get of this game. We spent another 30 minutes talking about pieces of cardboard that can take us back in time. We have one thing left to do, though. Let's give away a $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games. There is a link down below in the video description. I'll also put it as the first comment to a very short survey. I'm curious about viewers on the channel about one thing, and that is what percentage of people's games of people that are watching this video are spent playing tabletop war games as opposed to tabletop board games. So I've got like 2-3 questions in the survey that are just going to get a sense of that. I do need to take your email in order to make sure that only there's one entry per email, and I will delete those email addresses after this competition has been over. I don't have any desire to take people's email addresses. I just needed to run the competition. So if you're interested in winning a $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games, check out the survey down below, fill it out, and I'll be back in about 2 weeks or so for the channel, the monthly update, where we'll give away the $50 store gift certificate at that time. In this video, we talked about the Leader game reprint from Danverson Games. If you're interested in watching some gameplay from a Leader series, we have a full 13 video series on Sherman Leader. Here's a link to episode 1.